All right. Does this sound any better?
Yes.
I have no idea where that audio was even coming from because this is the only microphone I have. And it was saying, I think it was coming from my earphones. Oh, that is so weird. I'm so sorry. Did you guys even catch that? Do I need to repeat my story? I will gladly repeat my story. Hey, Mark, I love the show. Thank you. And I love you for being here. Um, so sorry about that. So, anyways, what I was just saying is that my home buyer decided I had given up some commission. My her parents had given her some money, which you can do, by the way, as long as the letter says from your family member that it's not a loan, it's a gift. And then she cashed out her 401k. And the thing about it that made it so crazy is like, this is dumb. But that was at the beginning of the pandemic, and she's already earned that money back. So sometimes real estate agents get it wrong, but who is to know? Who is to know that during a global pandemic, it was going to go crazy. Hey, Jeremy Knight, my guest that was supposed to be on today didn't show up. Would you like to be a guest on the show? If you're a real estate agent and you'd like to be a guest on the show today, just let me know, because I want to talk about an article that popped up, and I would like to get other real estate agent opinions, because when I read it, I had an opinion. Shocking, I know. If you guys have a question during the stream, just make sure you put the word question and then your question right after it, and then we'll get right into it. So let's go ahead. All right, I'm going to go ahead and drop Jeremy Knight a link, and he's going to jump on here, because Jeremy, I'm going to tell you. Yeah, I saw that. I'm going to go ahead and give Jeremy Knight's a good friend of mine, and he is out of the Austin, Texas area. Hold on, let me send. I'm going to send it to you through Messenger on Facebook. All right, that has been sent. Done. All right. So he's out of the Austin, Texas market, and there has been an article. Eddie's going to go ahead and pull this article up, and then we can get your opinions about this as well. Go ahead, Eddie. Throw that article up there. Da da da. I'm waiting on my producer to throw this up. This article. In the meantime, I'll just dance for you. Eddie? Oh, here we go. Mortgage servicers brace for a fallout of COVID bailout as the COVID bailout ends. Okay, so the article goes on to say that at the beginning of the pandemic, there were 7.5 million people that entered into the forbearance program. A lot of those people, believe it or not, just wanted to do it because they were unsure of what was going to be happening. Over a period of time, those numbers have dropped drastically. And this is what made me think that the housing market at that time was going to not do so good. Because when I saw 7.2.5 million people getting on forbearance, I was like, this is a recipe for freaking disaster, because there was over 11.2 million people that went into foreclosure during the last housing crash. So when I saw this number originally, that 7.2 million, I was like, oh my God, here we go again. And then over time, those numbers have fallen. So now it's at a 2.2 million, give or take, and they have extended the forbearance plan for another month. Some mortgage carriers are even doing it till the end of August. So if you were planning on getting on forbearance and you haven't done so yet, your time is ticking. You don't have much time. So with that, they're saying that in the fall and winter, there's going to be a windfall of foreclosures that hit the market. Well, just because you're in forbearance doesn't mean you're going to automatically go into foreclosure and it's going to automatically go on the market. The foreclosures that they're talking about are the ones that have been sitting on their books already, and they're most likely going to be on the market because they've already gone through that process. They just haven't hit the courthouses because a lot of courthouses were closed during this time. They just needed that rubber stamp, and they're going to be hitting the market. In my opinion, this will help balance the market out, especially if you have been waiting on the fence all this time to get a house and there haven't been any houses in your area to be available. You're still going to have to fight with some investors that are trying to scoop up properties to, you know how investors are. There's companies out there that are buying properties left and right to go ahead and rent them out. And not only that, there's a lot of people that are looking for their second homes. They're buying like vacation homes in Florida, and even here in New Orleans, they're doing that. So in the fall, we will see an increase of inventory, but that increase in inventory doesn't necessarily mean that the prices are going to drop. Oh, look, and Jeremy Knight is coming in right now. So glad you're here, Jeremy. Hey, Jeremy, thank you so much for popping in. You're here? Can you hear me, Jeremy? Okay. So did you see this article about the forbearance?
Hey, no problem. I thought it was weird that you were by yourself. I almost... Oh, hold on. Am I mute?
No, I can hear you. I can hear you.
I did.
And what do you think?
There we go. Technical difficulties. Over.
That's okay. I had it too.
Hear me?
Yes. Yeah, it was weird. I had somebody that was supposed to come on.
One second.
And I think they forgot. I don't know if they forgot
the
or
same
I didn't.
Thing you did. I had AirPods.
Yeah.
There we go. Okay. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Okay. So yeah. So what happened? Did you read this article about this article that came in about the more like the wave of foreclosures that's supposed to hit the market in the fall and winter? Did you see this?
I literally just read it this morning.
And what is your opinion? Because I just gave mine. Because I don't think they're gonna it's gonna necessarily make the housing, right. I don't think it's gonna make houses dip into as high as they went last year. What is your opinion?
Yeah. So here's one bit of information I think they should have added in this is that when we saw the market crash in 2008, at the time there was 3.7 million homes available. Right now there's 1.05 million homes available. So if you look at the numbers based on this, if every single one of those went for foreclosure this moment, then yes, we probably would see that happen. But the reality is even based on the information in the article, it's really unlikely that we're going to see, only 7.5 actually have gone to sale or something like that. So super low. So these would all have to go up for foreclosure tomorrow for us to see a huge
right.
issue. Right,
exactly. And the foreclosure process. So let's just say they've been on forbearance all this time, and then they are going to go to foreclosure. It still takes time for it to go through that foreclosure process. The average minimum amount of time a home takes to get onto the market once it's been foreclosed on is about a 427 days. Now, the average height of the highest is 4 to 8 years. 4 to 8 years at the highest, and it depends if these people went through bankruptcy at the same time, or if they got divorced, or there's multiple owners. There's all sorts of things that can happen that delays a foreclosure process before it hits the market. And then a lot of these too, that people don't understand is that some properties never ever actually hit the open market because they already have back end investors that are buying those before they even go on the market. So, I just think that will help balance out this real estate market, in my opinion. Maybe make it less competitive, less crazy.
Yeah, what's crazy, so the story you were telling about the beginning of the pandemic, I think everybody was in the same boat. You can't point out very, very many agents that were like, okay, this market's going to be fabulous for the next 7 months and just go absolutely crazy gangbusters like it did. And then after 4 or 5 months of actually having data is when we were all like, well, hold on a second. The forbearances keep getting kicked down. There's this forbearance thing. Now this the can keeps getting kicked down the road and further and further. And then it's like, oh, wow. So when are these forbearances going to hit? And then everybody started realizing, well, hold on a second. They're not going to hit because there's no inventory. Now, had there been a ton of inventory, then yeah, I think it would have, the roles would have been in reverse. So it's very interesting to see what has happened over the last, really since the beginning of this year. Last year is an anomaly in itself, but seeing what's happening this year and then seeing these numbers, as somebody who buys investment properties, I would hope some of these would come on the market because it'd be much easier for me to buy a property. It'd be much easier for the investors. I literally have investors calling me every day wanting to buy properties in Austin. I'm like, what properties are you going to buy? There's very little inventory.
Well, and to that point, that's what makes me say that that doesn't necessarily going to mean that housing prices are going to drop. We
Right.
have a bank. I mean, I don't know, a real estate agent that has a, log of business that doesn't have a bank of buyers that are just sitting there waiting for homes to hit on the market. And some of the, like, I've had several buyers that are just like, you know what, I'm just going to sit this out until I see more houses come on the market. I'm ready. I'm qualified. I want to buy, but I'm not going to buy just to buy. I'm going to wait until I see some more homes. So sellers are more negotiable. And I would love for that to happen, because the negotiability of some of these houses have gotten to the point of just absolute ridiculous. And what some home buyers are willing to do to get a house, in some cases, I'm just like, you got to be out of your mind. I mean, I saw somebody in my office, they actually paid those people's mortgage for 3 months. Three
Yeah.
months. 3 months.
There's a guy who's going around, I'm not going to say his name, but he's going around talking about, the housing market busting, and he's talking about different markets, but he talked about the Austin market. And one thing that he said, talking about paying people's mortgages and things, one thing he said is like, the rental rates in Austin haven't caught up. So that means that Austin's going to bust. I'm like, does this guy sell real estate or do anything in real estate? I don't think he does, because if you try to get a rental right now in Austin, I'm not kidding you, you have to give 12 months of rent up front in a lot of cases in order just to get that rental. And you have to offer more than what the rent is. So
That's
on
right.
paper, yes, rental rates aren't there, but in all reality, like those numbers lag. And when you get comps and information from the MLS, it doesn't tell you, especially in a lease, that they gave 12 months up front. 45. I had literally a client give up $45,000. I don't do very many leases. $45,000 up front just to get a rental in Austin.
And the rental market here is crazy. Like, I like what they have increased by since the beginning of last year is crazy. And then there's no signs of rental prices in my specific area. They're going to go down because we don't have enough rentals. We don't even have enough apartment complexes in my specific area, but that's another story. We do have some questions rolling in. Yep. Go ahead.
I was going to say one thing. I forget who it was I was listening to. I like to listen to the Valuetainment podcast, but one of the people they were having on there says, so in 2008, when they got out of the housing market because they were looking at the demographics of buyers in 2007, and they sold off all that. They had a lot of investment properties. They sold them all off, and then the market crashed right after that. And now they're looking at this year and they're buying right now. So part of the reason, a lot of people are talking about institutional investors. And I think Javier did a video the other day I watched part of, where he broke down some of the statistics on that, which was good information. But if we look at the buyer demographics and why specifically people like him are buying, is because the average age of buyers is 33, right? That's the average age. And we have more people in that 33 millennial price or age bracket now than we did in 2008, far exceedingly higher than we did in 2008. So that's part of why we're seeing so many buyers in the pool.
Yeah. When do you expect this to die down? Jennifer Streeter wants to know.
Man, it's tough because, if
I have an opinion.
You have an opinion? Okay. I'll tell you my opinion, and then I'd love to hear yours. I think, you have a lot of people coming out talking about bubbles and crashes all over again. They were about 8 months ago. That's all we heard. We're hearing it all over again. I don't think it's going to be in 2022. I just don't see it. I know there's a lot of people saying not to buy the rest of this year because of next year, but those same people, if they had said that in early 2020 and didn't buy, I can show specific neighborhoods in Austin that have a 50% increase from this time last year to now. Yeah. I think we start to see a lot of uneasiness in 2023. And I think I think we're going to see inventory is going to start piling up, and it's going to take a year for inventory to pile up to get to the point where we're not at like in Austin, we're at 0.5 a month inventory. We're going to have to get up to about 2 months to 2.5 months of inventory to see a really straightforward leveling.
Bastion Swagger 25 gave me a $1.50 super sticker. I appreciate you, Bastion. Nice. Bastion, thank you so much. This is my opinion. Okay, so I believe the end of this quarter, the fourth quarter, we're going to start seeing some leveling off. There's going to be more houses that hit the market. It's obviously starting already. A lot of people that have been sitting on the fence might start getting back in it. Of course, like always during Christmas, January, that time is normally a cooling off period anyway. Once we get into those summers, like into the spring and summer months again, we're going to have a more normal market, more even tone, normal market once again.
Totally
I don't think we're going to see a wave of depreciation, if any, until the end of the fourth quarter of 2022. When I pull up the numbers and look at the foreclosure rates of how many people that were in foreclosure prior to the pandemic, and how long it's going to actually take those people, like you said, if you put every single one of those people that are currently on forbearance, if they did go in foreclosure, how long would that take before it actually trickled onto the market? We're not going to, it would be a miracle. Like they would have like record speed, which we all know banks don't have record speed about anything, for them to be able to get it out any sooner than that, to get a big clump of houses to hit the market. And even during the last crash, they knew that they didn't want to flood the market with foreclosures. So even at that time, even though we had record amount of foreclosures, there were still banks that held on to a pool of foreclosures at a period of time and wouldn't let them hit the market until they would trickle them out. Just, all right, we'll put this little basket of houses out. Now we're going to go ahead and put these ones out to get them off their books. But they waited. They didn't just throw them all out at once, or we'd be still seeing record low rates if they had done that, because it would have tanked the market, the housing market. They're not in the business to make all of our equity in our houses to go in the tank. They do not want that to happen. It doesn't look good for them, because then they have to reorganize loans and renegotiate loans, and they hated doing that after the last crash, and they've learned a lot of lessons from the last crash. Question: Nell says, do you know how the housing market in Antelope Valley, California, Palmdale, and Lancaster? I don't know anything about that specific market, but I do occasionally have real estate agents here on my show from California. This week it just happens to be Austin, Texas, because Jeremy was nice enough to fill in for me. I was supposed to have Matt Kelderman, and I hope he's okay. He's always like my once a month guy, so I don't know if something just happened. Anyways, Liberty Return says, go ahead.
No, there was a good one further up your stream here, Nick Contis.
Let's get to that. We'll get to that one, and then we're going to do Liberty Returns real question. Question: Listings are increasing here in Utah. Do you think we're a year off from in prediction? Do you think we're a year off in prediction? Well, listings are increasing everywhere. That isn't a bad thing. That isn't about. We have such a shortage of supply of homes on the market. I don't necessarily think that's going to cause people to lose all the equity they've gained in their house. Now, will they get the prices that they were getting a year ago? Are they going to get it over asking $100,000? Are they going to get all these extra perks that buy home buyers were willing to do? I think those home buyers are already exhausted. And I think those sellers that got it. And at this point, I think we're going to start seeing a little bit more reasonability in the market. That's my opinion. What do you think?
I agree with that. I think, you had a lot of those buyers that had a lot of cash, especially in Austin, coming from California, that sold properties. And so they had a lot of extra cash lying around. And so, if you look at the numbers, especially in Austin, the people that are originally from Austin make way less than the people that are actually migrating here or coming into the party less with less. So I agree. I think what we're going to see is, yes, we're seeing more inventory, but part of that seasonality, because people for the first time in well over a year are finally going on vacation. And, if you looked at the numbers, I did a video on this. If you look at the numbers from 2019, like the graph, even I think Redfin put this out, and then you look at the 2020, you see 2019 was a standard year. You see the standard graph. And if you look at 2021's numbers, June, it's May, June, they almost mirror exactly 2019. But then you have this crazy ass line that goes through 2020 that makes no sense. So I think what we're seeing is a normal, back to what a normal market is. So the point you made about prices. So you're not going to see $150,000 over list price. You may not. In Austin, we're still seeing stupid offers like that. But you're not going to see as many super high over list price offers, but those comps that have closed are still comps. So you are still getting 150 grand, probably higher. I'm speaking about Austin in general.
Yeah, I was going to say that's your specific market.
Right. So, what would have been 300 last year is now 450 this year. So okay. You're not going to get 150 grand over list price on this offer, but you're still 150 grand higher than you were last year.
True. All right. Question. Angela the vegan says, did you see inventory increasing in the past week in the real estate world? Some articles are saying this. I don't know if I believe it. Yes, we do see a little bit more. I'm talking in my specific area. We had at the lowest, we had 178 and now we're up to 198. But I will still say the majority of those specific listings in my area are still like proposed construction. We don't have enough resale properties. Now, I did list a house a couple weeks ago. I listed it, and I mean, I put it up at 7:00 at night, and I had like so many showings the next morning. She just left the house, and by noon we had it sold. I mean, and I'm not one of these people that are like, I'm going to collect all the offers. I'm just like, this is a good offer. You want to take it? Yeah, let's get it done. You know? Yep. Yeah, she didn't want to play any games. She was like, I don't want to do the highest and best, just whoever comes in with the best offer. I'm like, okay. So yeah, so at the end of the day, we had picked out the best one. No love letters. Yeah, no love letters though. You know, I don't know if anybody.
It's probably a good thing.
Yeah, those are so dumb. So dumb. I had to write that in the MLS. No love letters.
That's that's not a bad idea, because it just adds more, like, when you're looking at offers, especially here, if you're getting 10, 20, 30 offers, it just adds another piece of paper to look at. And then on top of that, you're adding, a housing liability or a fair housing liability when you do that. So it's like, please.
So what we're talking about is like when people say, when they put in with the offer, they'll write a letter like, my family just loves this neighborhood. His best friend lives right around the corner. This is perfect school for my children, and all this other stuff
right here.
Yeah, like they go through and they make this really like heartwarming felt, story type letter to give to the seller, so they'll consider their offer more than anybody else's. And I won't accept them, because, like he said, it can be a fair housing violation to do something like that. It's persuasion in a way that isn't legal. All right. So, is there a way to get a report on my real estate agents? He fails us bad 3 times now, and we're already in 4K, and it seems he doesn't know what he's doing. So Christopher, are you saying that like you want to know what his actual numbers are? Because you can find that out.
Broker.
Yeah, you can contact the broker and find out what his numbers are. And if you're having a problem with that specific agent, I would call the broker anyway. Like, so if, let's just say he works for Keller Williams Austin, call their office, ask to speak to the broker, and tell them their whole entire situation. Most likely the broker will probably take over your transaction or find you somebody else in the office that will work with you. Try to work with that office first before you fire them, because they already have your information. It just makes it much easier for you. They can take any contract that you have, or if you have a listing, and they just roll it over to the other agent, and then they can handle it. If you don't want to go that route, you can just walk in the office and say, I want to talk to the broker. I'm going to cancel my contract right here. And then you could just walk out to the next one. But if you're having a problem finding a real estate agent that you like, go ahead and reach out to me. You can email me at info@KristinaSmallhorn.com, and I will connect you. I am connected with over 4,000 agents throughout the country, and I will find you a real estate agent for you. All right. That almost sounded like an infomercial. I didn't mean to make it sound like that.
Call me at 1-800-STINA.
Yeah. That would be like a cool voiceover kind of thing, like info@Kristina.com.
Yeah, exactly.
Kristina, I love your show. You're fabulous to watch and offer the best information. I usually catch you late night because I live in San Diego, just like our buddy Dan Parker. Glad I finally say hello and say thank you. Oh, all right. Thank you, Bash, and I appreciate you. Jeremy Knight's a pretty good guy, too. You got to go check out his channel. He does live streams with a bunch of real estate agents at one time. Yeah. We got another question we can throw up there, my friend?
There was one, it was a while back. It was asking, there are first-time home buyers, Nick at 348. He said, question, if I'm a first-time home buyer but cannot afford these new prices, should I look to rent to own options. I don't, so there, that's a good question, because rent to own options, I don't see a lot of right now, and it might be in your area, just not in my area.
Uh-huh.
But that might be a good option. One thing is, with more inventory hitting the market right now, let's say you're an FHA buyer or a VA buyer, there most likely will be more opportunities for you now. Like I said, a lot of people are on vacation. They're not paying attention. We're starting to see inventory stack up. So between now and really, October, you're probably I would just keep an eye out for good options. I mean, that might not work out with or line up with how your rental is going right now or your leases and things like that. But I think really between right now and October is going to be a fantastic time to buy. Every market's different, but I know in Austin, the November market, what happens in November is a lot of that inventory goes away because people will either withdraw or expire their listing because they don't want to have their home on the market during Christmas. So prices and multiple offers start happening all over again in November here. So I would say between now and October, I would definitely keep an eye out, and there will be more opportunities because like we both said, we're seeing a leveling. So if that leveling does continue and persist, people are going to be forced to now go, okay, there's no 20% conventional offers right now, but there's a 3.5% VA, or there's a down payment assistance offer that is a good offer. I'm going to take it.
Right. Another option, if you're just waiting to clean up to your credit before, you can actually purchase, you can do something called a lease purchase. So you can ask somebody if they're willing to do a lease purchase. Now, here in Louisiana, in order to do a lease purchase, you have to put down a pretty good deposit, but that deposit would be used for basically your down payment on the house itself. And then that lease purchases, you're leasing it for X amount of time, and that you plan on purchasing it within the next 9 months. The only thing that stinks about that is after those 9 months, if you cannot purchase it, that whole big deposit that you were going to use for a down payment is gone. So just know that, if you're good with that, you can do that. Go ahead and put that back up, Eddie. I missed it. Steve C says, how can a person downsize into a retirement home and sell your current home? I know the answer to this. Do you know the answer to this?
Let me reread it. How can a person downsize into a retirement home and sell their current home? There's lending options right now that'll let you do cash. So basically it's like a cash offer, and then you sell your home. So there are options.
Yeah, you do a bridge loan too, where you take the equity and you bridge it over to the next purchase. That you can talk to your lender in your area. They'll have all sorts of different packages that you can do in order to get that done. It's especially if you have a lot of equity, they're more than willing to work with you, and they'll take care of it.
One thing you might do too, I know we can do it here in Austin. It just depends on your market. Is we do a lease back. So let's say with conventional, you can only do 60 days of a lease back until it's considered an investment property. So let's say you put your house in the market, you put it under contract, and you ask for 60-day lease back. The moment you close, you're no longer a contingent offer. So you can go put an offer on any property at that point, but you're going to have to buy pretty quickly. So that's another option. Your home will be under contract closed. You're going to be renting back. In this market, we've seen a lot of people do those for free. So give 60 days free lease back. Hopefully we won't see as many of those, people start paying for those again, but that might be another option as well.
I'm thinking that we won't see that. I'm hoping that will go away. Those always make me very nervous.
Yeah, super nervous. Yeah.
Silly Mommy for Life says, question, I have a house to sell. Do you think it'd be better to move into a rental while trying to sell my house, or do I most likely do quick sell to have but I do have 5 kids too. Well, you're looking for a quick sell. You have 5 kids. I think that depends on how your market is. So if you have a really super hot market right now, I would just plan a day, plan a day where you take your kids to the park the whole day, where everybody can go through and start looking at your house. And then the next day, see if you've gotten any offers. If it doesn't seem like that market is doing that, then you may want to reevaluate. But in my area, you could easily just, hey kids, we're going to go to the park for the day, and pack a big picnic basket. And by the time you were done in the afternoon, you've had, 11 showings and you already have an offer. So that would be dependent on your market. And make sure it's all
yeah.
to
A lot of
shape
times
here.
a lot of times I tell clients like, hey, this is the perfect opportunity to do a 2-day getaway. Go, do an Airbnb down in San Antonio for 2 days, go to Marble Falls, whatever. You go to the lake for 2 days, and that way you're out of the house, and we'll just literally ram people through the house for 2 days straight to get offers. So
did you overlap? Did you overlap showings? Did you ever do that?
Me, of course not.
Dewan with 301 says, what is your advice of buying a manufactured home with land attached? I qualify for a VA loan. I'm in Central North Carolina. Thanks. They're great. That's a great option. I would make sure that if it does have a septic system, make sure that septic system's up to code. And when you have a VA, you'll have a VA inspection. So there's going to be things that are required of the seller to repair when you have that inspection done. There's nothing there. That's a great, I would do that. It's a 30-year fixed rate mortgage, and you have a piece of land and it's an affordable house. Absolutely. I'm all for a manufactured home on a piece of dirt. Now this is where I shy away from manufactured homes, is when they're in a park or, a park, because you don't gain any, it's very difficult to gain, equity into those properties once it's not attached to land, because the land is owned by somebody else, and then that manufactured home becomes a depreciating asset in some areas. Because even in California and New Jersey and Florida, there's lots and lots of parks that retired people live in, and they gain value. There's tons in California these houses are, some of them are millions of dollars, and they were manufactured homes there. But it just so happens that the location is really good, but it's a lease underneath the land. So that's dependent on the area. But I tend to say, if you're leasing the land underneath it, I would shy away from that. Not only that, but you have a more likelihood, if you're doing that, to have a predatory lending practices happen to you. And if the rent in that manufactured home park goes up exponentially and you can't afford it, what are you going to do? You have a mortgage, which is usually a chattel loan, the mortgage at a high interest rate, and you're just affording that. And now they've raised those rents so high, it takes too much for you to try to move that manufactured home somewhere else. It's thousands of dollars to lift that house and put it somewhere else. So that's why I always tend to say, if you're renting the land underneath it, just make sure that I would do your due diligence to see how often they raise the rent and what it is they do with that rent money, and how often, I check with the neighbors, see if they're actually doing the things they say they're going to do in that park. So thank you, Dewan. All right, question. Steve C says, why is there not a place where a person can buy a 2-bedroom house and the front room is in the back, kitchen is in the front of the house? Why is there not a place? I would say depends, because if you live in New Orleans, there's all sorts of houses that look just like that. That would be, and you can always have one built. You can always buy a piece of property and have a house built the way you want it to be built. I just talked to a company that sells floor plans to people to help them build their own house, which I thought was really cool. Did you see that video?
I did not.
It was a good video. Do you have floor plans like that in your area? Like 2-bedroom houses?
Yeah. There's actually a new community on the east side that actually does have that.
Oh, east side of Austin?
Mm-hmm.
Is it in a specific suburb of Austin, or it's still Austin?
Yeah, it's kind of like South Manor, East Austin. It's north of where Tesla's going in. So it's good. Yeah.
Did you see that Elon Musk is living in a boxable?
I was just in Boca Chica and tried to go see it, but didn't make it in there. I was literally, if you look at my Instagram, I was just in Boca Chica.
That's cute. All right, let's see. All right, question. This is from Para Bellum. Would you sell rental properties? They were purchased in 2012 for several thousand less than what they're worth now. I'm specifically hold them in Nashville, Tennessee, and Frisco, Texas. That is depending on your financial portfolio. I'm one of the kind of people that say hold on to your rental units until you don't want to maintain them anymore. Go
do you
ahead.
need the money for something? What are you going to invest the money in? Are you going to pay, how many thousands are you end up having to pay since it was a investment? Are you going to have to pay, capital gains?
Gains.
I would look at all of that information. Me personally, hell no, I'd keep those things, man, because they're going up in value right now. I mean, what they are now this year probably is going to be more next year. So if you're still probably, I don't have the crystal ball, but it will most likely be more next year. So you'll have more value then. On top of that, you're going to be renting them and reducing, every payment you make, you're still reducing the mortgage on it. Somebody else is paying for it. So I would hold them.
I would hold them. That's how I always hold them.
Yeah.
I tell my husband the way that housing prices have gone up so much. We have a couple of housing units, and I'm like, this is our kids' inheritance. We're going to hold on to these houses, and this is what kids. This is what you're going to, this is going to be your wedding gift. You get this rental unit. You can either sell it, fix it up, or whatever you want to do.
Live in
it. You can fix it up and live in it. You can do whatever you want, but here it is. This is our gift to you. This is our legacy. This beautiful rental unit.
What I'm still like, here's the thing is like, I keep seeing a lot of YouTubers putting out, this is a terrible time to buy. You shouldn't be buying. It's hard to say that. Like, how can you really say that? Because investors are still purchasing up properties. There's two things happening at once, which I find puzzling. People are saying, okay, BlackRock and all these companies are purchasing all these properties and they're making to make everybody renters. And it's a terrible time to buy, telling people not to purchase. Well, if you're saying that everybody's going to become renters and not to purchase, you're actually doing you're doing the same thing at the same time. You're telling people not to be homeowners and allowing investors to continue to purchase up property. Like, you're doing the same.
Right, but they are doing that though. That is a real thing. And me and you actually talked about this months before it ever hit. Months before, because I had said there's an article in here, and that's what these companies were doing, and they were buying them for $1 more foreclosures. And these big companies, these hedge funds, were doing that months before it ever hit the mainstream media. And I found an article, and I was like, why aren't they talking about this? And then all of a sudden, it's all over the news. But they are doing that. But I don't think that it depends on your perspective. I would never say don't buy a house because these people are doing it. My concern was for people in the future, for my kids to be able to afford a home. Like this is bad. Like we can't let corporations take over whole neighborhoods and turn them into rental units. I don't want to become a nation of renters. This is how the average American starts to gain legacy wealth. You have to do it through real estate. That's how the baby boomers did it. And I want that ability for my kids. The way it's going now, if these corporations continue to buy up houses like they did or continue to do.
Well, that's what I'm saying is but if you're telling people now that are in that buying age, right, that can buy a home, not to buy because it's the worst time to buy, you're only allowing corporations to purchase more. Yes. So why tell people to continue? Like, my whole thing is, look, I would rather give people good information. If it's a bad time to buy, it's a bad time to buy. I mean, everybody's situation is different. And so when I sit down with clients, we sit down and go, let's put you in the best situation possible. I know not every real estate agent is going to be like that. And I'm not saying I'm the best real estate agent either. But what I'm saying is, like, if you are going out and frightening the hell out of people, saying the market's going to crash, which it could, the market's going to crash and BlackRock is buying up all of the properties and you're going to be a renter for life, but don't buy. Well, you're in essence scaring people not to purchase when it might be the right time for them to purchase.
Right. Well, if your rent is more than a mortgage payment, well, then the math does itself.
Yeah, exactly.
S. Adam says, question, do you think listing agents will stop offering offer review date approach? Do you believe that? Yeah, it's going to happen let me just put it this way. If we start seeing a balanced market, there's not going to be offer review date approach. There won't be one because you're only going to get like one or two offers and you're just going to pick out the one that's the best. There's not going to be 60 offers sitting in your lap and some of them like sight unseen. I mean, I have one backup offer sitting on one of my listings because they didn't even see it, because it already went under contract and they put in a backup offer because they like the video and the pictures. I mean, to me, that's insanity. insanity. But people are still in that desperate state. I'm hoping they'll stop with this nonsense, because I think there's going to be a lot of people with buyer's regret. There was an article, I don't know if you saw this, there was an article that said millennials have buyer's regret. And I'm like, they polled these people in 2019. I bet you those same people that they polled in 2019 no longer have buyer's regret. Because they just made a killing. They just made a killing. We polled millennials and they have buyer's regret. Not anymore. They don't. All right. We got another question. Here it goes. Silly Mommy for Life says, listing your house versus not listing. Should I still list my house even though this is a potential buyer? Funny point. The buyer kind of did that to me, of telling it's their dream neighbor. Selling your house versus not listing. Listing your house or not listing. Should I still list my house even though this is a potential buyer? Oh, okay. I got it. So she has her house. She already has a buyer that's going to be possibly buying it. I would list your house, because you're trying to get I'm looking at it as a listing agent. You're trying to get the most money for your house at this moment. The buyer may be ready and qualified at this moment, but you still want to get the most money you can possibly get. If you only give it to one person, you may have left money on the table, and you don't want to do that. Put your house on the market and see how much you can actually get for it. Because this buyer, you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket and they're not qualified and they, they haven't done everything they need to do. Put your house on the market. Get all the money you can get from it.
Yeah. You got to do what's best for you. Number one, so if you want to sell it to this person, sell it to that person. But what Kristina just said is what I would say too, is that, you're going to have more eyes looking at it. That could be a better qualified buyer, or might not. I don't know. I don't know how well that qualified that buyer is. It's bringing you the offer. So, more eyes on the property would be better than lower eyes on the property. Not lower, but least amount of eyes on the property.
You never want to leave money on the table, ever.
Yeah.
Do you think I should still list my home and so I can get multiple offers? Yes. Yep. That's what we're saying. Yep. Yeah. Don't just take the donuts. Get more money. Yeah. Go ahead, Eddie. I see a couple sitting right here. I think Eddie got lost there. There it goes. Texas hot market near Austin, San Antonio, everywhere in Texas, really, any major city, Dallas, yeah. Fort Worth, Austin, everywhere.
San Antonio is a little bit easier to buy in than Austin, and the prices are a little more friendly. It's really hard to find something under 350 in Austin. But it is much easier in San Antonio. I have clients buying in San Antonio right now. I don't work in San Antonio a lot, but I do every now and then. And I've long told investors that are coming into Austin to look in San Antonio instead of Austin. So it's just more friendly.
I was going to ask you, before the pandemic, could you get houses in the 250s?
In Austin? Yeah. In Austin, South Austin, I have clients buying properties in the 260, 270 range, like 1,500 square foot homes. I just saw, who was the builder? DR Horton is putting up, they're doing bids, and for a 1,300 or 1,400 square foot home was like 359. And a year ago, I had clients buy 260, 265.
The doctor. That's what I said. Oh, there's the doctor, because it's DR Horton. I don't know why. The Dr. Horton homes.
Yeah.
All right, Eddie, here we go. Question. Do you both have any advice for people who are moving to a different state and want to buy? Do you have any advice for that? I do, but you can go ahead first, Jeremy.
I work with a lot of out-of-state buyers right now. A majority of the people buying in Austin are a good chunk of people buying in Austin are out of state. In fact, I had a client say they were going to stop by the house, and I go, oh, wow, it's so weird. Somebody's actually going to stop by the house. I'm used to videoing homes. But I would recommend, number one, get as much information as you can about the area you're buying in. Know if you are purchasing a home, make sure you get with a good agent and a good local lender that can walk you through, what prices are, what things are going for, if you are going over list price for offers, what that looks like. If you're going under list price for offers, what that look like. I would get as much information as you can. And then I would set up, a lot of people will set up, if you're going to purchase, I would try to get something under contract or really start shopping 3 to 4 months before your lease is up, because it takes 30 days to close. It's going to take you 30 to 45 days probably to find a property. And then one thing to keep in mind too is, like, let's say, what month are we in? July. So let's say you put a house under contract in July right now, right? It's July 11th, whatever. Your first mortgage payment wouldn't be due until August, September 1st. Right. Because so even if you buy like July 1st, but if you buy at the end of July, your payment's still, September 1st. So keep that in mind too. You might have a 60-day grace, up to a 60-day grace period, depending on when you close on that property to make your first payment.
Yep. And one thing I will tell you, because I've had out of town buyers, just because you saw it on the internet yesterday, that doesn't mean that it's for sale today. And we're not trying to not show you the house. Most likely, if it's under contract, they're not taking backups. I've seen that more often than not. Like, we have like pending, continue to show, and then pending, no showings. And most sellers right now are like, we just want it under contract and get it sold. I don't want people just keep coming through. So nobody's trying to withhold homes from you. Right. And then I would also just get like you said, a good feeling from that local agent of what your market's doing, because what Jeremy's housing market looks nothing like my housing market. And he has it to levels of craziness that you wouldn't see outside Baton Rouge, Louisiana. It's too hot to be that crazy. So just make sure you have that open conversation with them. And if you don't like them, move on to somebody else. Like, if you're talking to somebody on the phone and you're getting a bad vibe, move on to somebody else. You're not stuck with them. And if you're working with a relocation company, tell them, I don't want to work with this agent. They're not, I know that they're on the list, but they're not working well with me. It's just not a good connection, and they'll set you up with somebody else. All right, Logic 1611 says, question, what is your advice for home sellers trying to try to get in contact with Blackstone or BlackRock to buy their home? Why would you do that?
So I think here's the big misconception that everyone has is, so the community that was purchased, that 120 home community that was purchased in Conroe, was actually built to be sold as one large unit, right? And so by the time that they'd actually built out, it was a 50% increase in price. So yes, they paid 50% over to buy that entire complex, but that's not saying that they're going and paying 50% over on regular sales. So, and I have friends that actually work for Bungalow, which is one of these companies that purchases big homes. I have no connection with Bungalow. I don't work with them at all, but for hearing from them, their price point that they buy in is under $275. So if you have a home and you're trying to sell to BlackRock or Blackstone or whoever stone, like, you're better off just putting it on the market and having somebody come in and write you an offer on it versus trying to reach out to them. Because the reality is they are not trying to pay 50% over price to pick up a property. It's just
not a single property.
It's so hard.
Yeah, they would want that whole section, because they're selling it off to their individual investors. That's what they're doing. Now there's other subdivisions. I mean, these are just the ones that they've written articles about, but there are subdivisions up through North Carolina, South Carolina, and that's exactly what they did. They haven't even scraped the ground. It hasn't even scraped the ground, and they've already sold the whole thing, and they're going to turn those into rental units. It's just one of those things that they just want to get rid of as much capital as possible, because of the fact that the value of the dollar keeps decreasing as inflation increases. So that's what hedge funds do. They're betting against money right now. I'm en route to rent a small house in Pensacola, Florida area. Would it be wise to find a realtor to rent a home in that area? It's hard to find a real estate agent that works with rental properties. I do not work with rental properties. I am not a rental management company. If it was me, I would find a company that specifically is a rental management company to find a rental real estate agent, because most real estate agents work with single family dwellings unless they're commercial real estate agents, and they probably do one rental lease a year. But if you call a rental brokerage, a rental management brokerage, they're going to have agents that do that every day, 100 times a day. And they're going to protect you and your interests better because they understand the contract and what's written in it. What's your opinion there, Jeremy?
Yeah. I mean, every now and then I'll have a client that needs help with a lease listing. I hate doing them. There's so much work. I agree with you 100%. A lot of times what I'll tell people is, hey, here's a management company that I partner with every now and then. Reach out to them and have a discussion with them to see if they're a better fit. Here's what I could do, but they may be a better fit because then they can manage it. I can't manage. So I agree. You're better off having a management company.
Yeah, like I'm not hate to interrupt you, but it's like this. You have this.
Or do it yourself.
You have this, lease agreement, but when it's a purchase agreement, we know every little trick there is, that, little verbiage that they use in order to kind of sway the contract so they can get it one over on you. When it comes to a lease agreement, I haven't done hundreds and hundreds of lease agreements. I probably do one a year, and it's because it's my own personal property. I would much rather my clients be represented by a leasing real estate agent. And if they say, well, I can do them, that's not the one for you. That you want the one that only does lease agreement type of properties. That is their forte. That is their specialty. That's the agent that you want, not one that kind of does it sometimes. Question: have either of you been able to get in contact with either of these agencies, BlackRock or Blackstone, to help your customers sell their homes? Eddie, we already answered that question.
It's the same. It's a different question, but again, you're better off selling to an average investor. That's one thing too, that I think there's a big misconception, is that, these are the only companies buying up all of the investments, when a majority of the people that are buying investments are individual buyers like me. If I bought a home, I'm an investor that buy an investment. So, the market for people that are just buying an investment home to rent out is much bigger than these Blackstone, BlackRock, whoever.
Yeah. And most of these companies are really looking at those auction sites, and they are literally doing it.
But they're not going to give you 50% over list price. That's what I don't understand. If you here's the deal.
They read a headline. They read a headline and they think that's what it is. You can't just. I get it. I know why people think that.
Well, here's the deal. Just like that question that one young lady had earlier about selling to one person, that one person is probably going to get a discount on that property versus you putting it on the market. Do you think BlackRock, Blackstone, one of these big investors, is going to come to you and go, okay, you want to sell for this? I'm going to give you 50% over. Hell no. I'll give you 50% less. They want a discount. They don't want to spend all this money over. So I don't understand why people don't get that, but I don't know.
Well, but in some cases, they are willing to pay a little bit extra to not have to fight.
When there's multiple offers.
Right. They're willing to pay more. Like in that Austin area, like what I told you months ago when they were doing this, they were every time somebody bid it up, they would bid $1 more. And then let's just say the bid was 350,000. They would do 351,000. And they just kept doing it until they won. They would do it every single time and they would win. Anyways, I cannot say this name, but Ezekiel? Is that how you'd say that? Ezekiel? Zephiel. All right. Kristina Smallhorn, do you see loans on housing being closed down by banks? I've read about some credit lines being retracted by numerous banks recently. That was Wells Fargo that is no longer allowing for personal credit lines. That's a different kind of loan that has nothing to do with actual housing loans, and those are more risky loans anyways. It does make me a little nervous on why a bank would not be able to take that kind of risk, especially somebody big as Wells Fargo. But I can see that isn't anything to worry about as far as the housing market and lending institutions.
It depends on how well they're hurt on the forbearance issue. They might not have the capital to continue to lend out loans like that, because if you think about it, cash on hand is when people are paying that monthly mortgage, now you're getting cash on hand, even though you have that mortgage out. So they may not have the capital in order to continue to make private line personal lines of credit.
There, yep, that's it right there. I was right, Wells Fargo. And the other thing is that at the beginning of the pandemic, a lot of these lending institutions wouldn't allow you to get a HELOC. And even with the increases of equity in the houses, they shut that poop down. And a lot of the bigger institutions are still not allowing for HELOCs, but you can find them with your local credit unions and local banks. I've seen them all over town here, only with the local ones, not with the big ones. So if you're interested in getting like a personal line of credit where you can use a HELOC, which is the equity that's in your house, you can do that. That is not a second mortgage. I know that some people are like, that's a second mortgage. Two totally different products. Talk to your lender about what the difference between a second mortgage and a HELOC is. We got another question. Silly Melly Me for Life says, Jeremy, how can I contact you? I live about 35 minutes from Austin. I would love to speak to you. Where can I find info? And I will check your channel out. Ooh, Eddie, if you could pull up Jeremy's channel, that would be like really nice. But Jeremy, go ahead. Tell her about you.
Yeah, you can email me at homes@austinKnightHomes.com. That would be the quickest way. That way we can set up a time to chat. So homes@austinKnightHomes.com. My channel as well, just type in my name, Jeremy Knight, and you'll find a bunch of different videos of me up there. But I think it's Jeremy Knight, your Moving to Austin guide. So that's my channel name.
You forgot your channel name.
I forgot my channel name.
That's funny. You have a long channel name.
Yeah. I should just change to Jeremy Knight. There you go. That's what I should
Wasn't it the Knight Group at one point?
Well, that's my team name is the Knight Group. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. All right. We got another question. Here he is. He's going to go ahead and throw this channel up so you guys can see it. There it is. Jeremy Knight, the Knight Group. Scroll down a scotch there, Eddie. Da-da-da. Da-da-da. Let's see if we can. It's a little slow. There we are. Look at those thumbnails. He puts out some great content when it comes to the real estate market. You talk about the real estate crash as well, if anybody's interested in that. And you can talk about mortgage rates and all sorts of great information when it comes to real estate, not just for Austin. There's some good stuff in there for anybody that's in the housing market. So Jeremy and I like making videos. We were one of the first ones that were doing it like on a consistent basis.
Yeah, well, you were much better at it than I am, so that's for sure.
But we help each other out. We help each other out. All right, we got another question we can throw out there, Eddie. It says, Stephanie Hernandez says, do non-qualified mortgages still exist? If so, how come we never hear of them? Non-qualified mortgages? Do you know what that is? Non-qualified mortgages. What is she referring to?
I think it's a non-conforming loan.
Oh, okay.
They probably are, but the interest rate on those is probably a lot higher than a conforming loan. So,
talking about like a subprime loan? They do still exist, by the way.
They do, but
the interest rates are ridiculous, and you have you have to cut off an arm in order to qualify for them.
Yeah.
Did you whisper something?
No, I was reading the next comment.
Okay, I was like,
no doc loan is what I read. Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were whispering something to us.
I'm not a lender. I don't know.
ASMR Real Estate with Jeremy Knight, Kristina Smallhorn. So disturbing. That is so disturbing. Ew. On that note, I think we should wrap this thing up.
Yeah,
Jeremy Knight, I want to tell you something. Thank you so much for spending your afternoon with me on the very last moment. I don't know what happened to my previous guest, but that is fine. You stepped in, you stepped up, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate you. Everybody give Mr. Jeremy a round of applause.
Thank you. What's funny is I literally had just finished editing a video, and I looked up, and on YouTube, I went to load it to YouTube, and I read that you're live. I was like, oh, let's see what Kristina's doing. So,
oh my God, I can't thank you enough. I really appreciate you, everybody. So if you have any more questions after this video, after we end this, you can always put them in the comment section below, and we'll answer as many as you can. You can even address a few to Jeremy. Just put the @ symbol and his channel name, and it will come right up, and it will ping him and let him know that you're interested in asking him a few questions. Jeremy, thank you again. Thank you, everybody, for spending your Sunday with me, and you'll see me again on Tuesday when I release my video. We're going to be talking about a lot of the things that we talked about today. Thank you, everybody. Say goodbye, Jeremy.
Bye, everybody. Bye, Jeremy.